All right. So, what is the 2-year rule for the 1031 exchange? So, have you heard that before?
Well, I could guess at it, but I don't know if I'm definitive about that.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and answer your question,
Okay.
and
So,
then I'll tell you if I was right or not.
all right. So I just googled this earlier, man. So it said the 2-year holding period starts running on the date of the transfer of the convenience of the last property involved in the 1031 exchange party transaction. So 2 years. So I guess you have to have a property for 2 years then, right? Of the last one,
Yeah,
if
what
you
it
had to do
sounds
that.
like in what you said there is that once you exchange money out, you've taken the proceeds from the sale of the first house, exchange that into a new property. You have to hold that property for 2 years
Yeah.
before you can roll it into another 1031 exchange. Now, the
Mhm.
question that just comes to my mind as I say that and as I listen to you is because there's a lot of people that will buy a rental house and hold it for a year and they'll refinance it and take capital out, they'll take money out because the value is increased enough. How
Yeah.
does that work in a 1031 exchange if some of the money that's coming out of a refinance is part of the 1031 money that you put into that property at acquisition? So that would be another question that somebody could ask when they're going through the vetting process of these exchange companies. Can I refinance after 1 year and pull equity out? Will that
Wow.
trigger anything from a tax basis? Does that make anything a taxable event?
Wow. That's it's so many different things, right? When it comes to this, because I've seen when I looked it up, right, they were saying a lot of people are trying to do 1031 exchange, but it's not as easy as you think. Some people said it is easy, so it's like it's a lot of different things to it. My advice would be do your due diligence on it. Write down as many questions you may have or whatever, and sit down with somebody who can actually walk you through. Maybe a couple of people,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Sit
Exactly.
down
Yeah.
with a couple of people and to make sure that you understand what you're doing before you even try to do this, because this is a lot of money you're talking about here when
Yeah.
you do a 1031 exchange, man. So any money you put towards something like that, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
You got to,
the 1031 exchange is really it's a
yeah,
taxable IRS kind of thing.
yeah,
It's not really a real estate kind of thing, although real estate is involved. So the people that you want to ask the questions to may not be real estate attorneys, they may be tax attorneys.
that's
And
true.
so I think that's the
That's
that's the
true.
separation to make sure you're asking the right people these questions.
Yeah, I agree, man. Great. That's great information there. All right, let's go to this next one. So how risky is this 1031 exchange? How risky is it?
Well, I think, like you said just a few minutes ago, a lot of people feel that it's pretty easy, and a lot of people say it's kind of can be complicated. I think if it's just the vanilla, you're selling one property and buying another one, and there's no quirks to it, it's probably a pretty simple thing to do as long as you have all the proper parties involved in it. But when you have to get a
Yeah,
little creative, you know, that's because you're dealing with IRS tax law. If you have to get, or you plan on getting a little creative with that, then there could be some complications, some risk. I mean, the big risk is that the IRS deems that this is not a properly executed exchange, and they declare the proceeds taxable. That's a big risk to me if something goes sideways and you don't follow all the rules.
and you definitely don't want to get on the wrong side of the IRS.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah.
You
And then
definitely,
the another risk I think is basically a change in tax law. There has been some conversations in Congress and at the presidential administration as they've been looking at some of the tax laws. One of the things they were trying to do here, early on in this administration's tenure, is they were trying to change the
yeah,
1031 exchange
yep,
law and take
yep,
it away, as
yep.
well as do some tinkering with the IRA regulations. And so that's a risk as well. Is that if there some success in changing the tax laws around a 1031 exchange, and then there's some risk involved there.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was gonna bring up as well, man. Yeah, you can see that, man. It seemed to me when you see people they get to messing with stuff like that, man. I immediately think that it had to be something good. you know, especially as an investor, right?
Right.
The last person, the last president, was definitely an investor. So for him to have that in place, it's beneficial for him, right? So that's what But the next person come in there, whatever, I guess he's not an investor, and they get to taking things away, right? So
Well, and
so
you and the I feel in those scenarios that the people that get hurt by that change in legislations are people like you and I, the mom and pops that are just trying to put together a little rental portfolio to help with retirement. Those are the ones that get hurt, where the multinational corporations, or like the Black Rocks, or those kind of big companies that own all sorts of different residential rental investment property, they have the deep pockets, the capital that they can deal with and absorb that change much better. So that's, if we're just playing at the level that we're playing at, I feel that we're the ones that have the greater risk in those kind of changes.
yeah, so true, so true,
Yeah.
man. All right, so here's the next.